We are back in the Active Directory lab. This is a long-awaited video, long overdue most certainly. In this one, as promised in the previous video in the series, if you go a little bit back, we will be grabbing some data about this Active Directory domain using Sharphound, our collector tool, and that will generate a bunch of JSON files. We're going to be able to import those into Bloodhound to analyze this very simple Active Directory domain. If we go over to, we'll start over here with the domain controller itself and just have a look around. So let me log in as the admin. And this was me attempting to get Sharphound on here. For anyone who is curious, what I ended up doing was I ended up deciding to run it from a share. But typically, I just did this to test. Typically, you wouldn't already be the domain admin, so I wanted to run this from a user level account. But, you know, if I go into manage and, or actually tools and Active Directory users and computers, I can see all the users in this domain. I can create more, which I might want to create a few more just to demo, like before we demo this. Let's see, the domain users here. Domain admins. This is the interesting group here, most certainly. What I could do is I could create a new user account. So here's our test user account that we created earlier. Let's see. We can create another one. We'll just call it misconfig. So that's what we'll name them. Never expires. There we go. So now let's add this user to some groups. And I'm showing you guys how simple it is here to do this as well. So I believe we want to make him a domain admin. We should be able to do this and say members, add member, and then we'll search for misconfig. And we see him here. We'll apply OK. So now, just to confirm, I look at members, and we see misconfig in there. So we could log in as this misconfig user on our domain controller box. But yeah, now that I've done that, let's try and run Sharphound to collect. I'll show you how simple it is to collect the data. So for getting Sharphound, the documentation is really solid. Basically, you have a couple options when finding this online. There's GitHub pages, obviously, but your main choices are you can either build it from source, you just have the C# files, or you could just do what I did and just grab the executable, or even a PowerShell script if you want. In this case, I just grabbed the executable. Moving it to the system was a bit tricky, though. I want to cover this just for the people following along at home. Maybe you already figured this part out. Maybe you didn't. If I pull up the docs really quick, let me grab the link. So I'll pull it up on my Kali box. Actually, that was having some internet issues, I think. Hang on. I know what I'll do. I'll open it. So pull it up here. And yeah, so here's the Sharphound documentation here, and the Bloodhound documentation as well. So once you get it, it can be a little bit tricky because of antivirus. This was flagging on Windows Defender. So my solution was to create a shared folder in my VMs. So I downloaded it on my Kali box just because on Windows it was constantly flagging it on the antivirus. And then I just created like a shared folder here. And at that point, it flagged on my host computer. So I had to create an exception for this file. And then I also, on my Windows box, which is this one, created that same share folder. So I was able to access it. I guess it got removed now, but I was able to access it there and get it on the system that way. Because another thing to keep in mind is that this Windows domain here is an internal network, if you recall. So what I mean by that is if I go into network, this is internal network. So that means it doesn't have internet access. So I had to download it first on something with internet access, and then I just use the share folder to transfer it over. But yeah, you're going to run into antivirus stuff, and there's a couple ways you can go about it. You can create an exception, which is what I end up doing on this box here. But another way, if you're trying to be stealthy, right? If this is a red team engagement or something like that, you don't want to be flagged by antivirus. You don't want to be caught. You have a few options. It'll take a little bit more time than what I did. Obviously I'm the admin of this network, so I can just create an exception easily, right? But if you're trying to be stealthy, especially, you could try running it completely in memory as a way to bypass it. And that's something I did test out on the domain controller. When I ran it on the domain controller, I never even moved it onto disk on here. I just created that share folder again. And see, I created this share. And in here, I have the Sharphound executable. And I opened a command prompt, and I was able to run it from the share folder where it didn't even touch the disk of this thing. So that is one way to get by the antivirus with this. And of course, another way would be to actually, play around with the code where you can try to actually apply your own encoding on the source itself to change the signature and throw off the signature antivirus. The ones that go against signatures, that will change it, and you'll probably be able to get by it in that way. But it also talks about some techniques that are used by, like Cobalt Strike and what's the other one? Not Silent Trinity, but Covenant. Yeah, Covenant. But I just want to share with you guys at home. That's how I got by this. Now let's get into it, right? So let's go to our test user on the system. And let's say we already have Sharphound on our system, right? So the collection method I'm going to run is going to be all. So I'll say Sharphound exe, collection method, all. And so let's see. I think I mistyped here. Let me see. All right, so it's actually two dashes here. And I'll go through, and it will collect the data. So now if I look here, I have this zip file here. So easiest way, if you have share folders, which if you don't, I highly recommend it, what you can do, because in my case, I actually have Bloodhound set up on my Kali box. So my Kali box is not a part of this domain, no problem. What I'm going to do is make use of the shared folders once again here. And let me make sure I'm on the correct box here. So it's this one in my case. So I go to share folders, I'm going to add, and I'm going to say, so once we have the folder selected, pretty important here, you want to make sure you click auto mount so that it will automatically mount it for you. Otherwise, you'll have to mount it yourself manually. If I'm on the right box here, you should see it show up in your network. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to open up another file explorer and just move it over. Could do it on the command line as well, but I'll just do it on the GUI for now because the Windows GUI is kind of annoying. And move this one over here. And we got two of these here. This one's from a test I did earlier, so we'll just make sure we use the one 621. And yeah, so now when we go over to our Linux box, I already set up Neo4j, and which is the database that you need to run Bloodhound, and I set up Bloodhound. So that's all in the documentation as well that we had pulled up earlier. It's pretty straightforward. So the first thing you do is run Neo4j console, and that will start up. And once it does, we will start up Bloodhound as well. Now, when you go to start this up, you need to make sure you do it as a user account, because if you try to do it as your root account, it's going to error out on you. So we'll do that. And I have no login set up, so I don't have to worry about username and password in my case. So this is what it looks like when you don't have anything imported in. Now, I have a share folder. I'm not sure if it's connected, so let me just double check that really quickly. So yeah, this share folder is set up already. So what I can quite simply do is I can just open up a new window here, and we'll do, I think I'm going to need to be root to actually access this file initially. Then I'm going to have to give my user account access to it. So if I go to Home Kali Documents, Share, I believe, should be in here. And which one is which? This one is kind of confusing here, but it'll be the one with the later timestamp. So it should be this one right here, I believe, right? 12 minus 21 is 9:21. I guess the timing is different on here. Yeah, this is definitely the later one though, so it should be this one here. So I'll just go ahead and copy this file back one directory into documents, we'll say. Wait a minute, where am I at currently? We'll put in Home Kali Documents. And we'll go back one, and once again, let's see what's what here. So that's the old one. This is the new one here. So I can do a chown-r Kali on this file. We can leave it in zip format. And the next thing we'll do is go back to Bloodhound, and we click over here where it says import graph. And now we can go to that and double click on it. And let's see here. I think it might have been some kind of permission type of error. Let's try to instead just click and drag. So yeah, forget about the import graph. I think that's for something else actually. Upload data, I think, was the proper one to click on. But yeah, you don't have to click here. You could just simply drag and drop the files in. And what it does is it will upload all these files here, these JSON files, for the groups, users, GPOs, OUs, domains, computers. And once that's done, we can exit this out. And I think there should be a way to, yeah, now we can just click over here and run some pre-built analytics queries. And another thing that we can do as well is we could actually write our own custom queries, or we can define them, or we could just do raw queries here. This is going to be using the Cypher query, which is something to do with Neo4j. So you can look up how to run queries in Neo4j, and you can come up with your own custom ones. So I think we might have need to log into the account that we created to actually grab some data off of that. Interestingly enough, it's only seeing this administrator count. It's not seeing the account that we just created that was part of domain admins, which was the misconfig account. So that's pretty interesting. But we can look for things like shortest path to domain admins, and it will map out everything here. Like this is your domain admins. These are the different ways you can get there. So you can go from the, what is this here? Default policy, elevate.internal, admin, domain admin. So, I mean, you can literally query all kinds of different crazy things. Now, some of this, we don't really have a big Active Directory network right now. It's just pretty small. So some of these aren't going to return anything because there's not anything really for it. Some of these can get pretty complex looking, as you see here. And yeah, you can just click around and have a look at different things. But I wonder if we can maybe grab the other account. If we log into it and we do some stuff on there while basically while we capture the traffic, we're poking around on the misconfig account. Maybe it will be discoverable, and then I can grab some data with it here. So I'm going to try that off camera, just to log into the misconfig account and do some things, and then run Sharphound again, and we'll see if that grabs it. And there we go. Maybe, now that I think about it, maybe when I dragged and dropped, maybe I dropped the wrong one. Maybe I dropped the old one on here before. I'm not sure. But regardless, I did what I said. I logged into misconfig, made a few requests, did a few things, and then grabbed it again with Sharphound, pulled it down on here. Now, when I ran the find all domain admins query, I actually do see both this misconfig and our actual administrator account. So we were able to detect that now, capturing some traffic off of, with our collector, Sharphound. And that is the power of this. Now, if you could imagine, if you're dealing with, a real world Active Directory domain, you might have hundreds, thousands of users in all of these, hundreds of different groups and things like that. It's a bit overkill for the small setup we have here, but I really wanted to show you, the concepts behind it, right? We have so much information as well, right? We could click on misconfig and see all of these properties. Basically, this is stuff that you could find through PowerShell and like PowerUp and stuff as well, which we'll be playing around with PowerUp. Really handy PowerShell module you can use. But if you see here, we can get access to a lot of that information, right? Like object ID, the name, password, last change date, last login. As you see, I just logged in. If it's an admin account or not, when the password expires, if it's rep roastable, which we can set up some rep roasting later, perhaps. And you just get a whole slew of information. And we could play around with a few more queries as well. We just go to the analysis tab up here. Let's see what's up here. Pathfinding, go back. So, you can even go back to previous things that you ran. So that's pretty interesting. Kerber roasting will be fun to play around with later. We could set up a Kerber roastable account. It's a very common attack there. So we could see now the shortest path. What is it? To domain admins. Wait, that's from Kerber roastable users. So you can even, have multiple little chains like that. We don't have any Kerber roastable ones yet. Okay, shortest path to domain. Let's see. Yeah, from all kinds of different things. Let's see here. Oh, okay, here we go. Find shortest path to domain admins. And see there, it prompted me for which domain we wanted to look at. In our case, we only have one domain, our internal domain. But if we had like multiple, then we could support that with this tool as well. And now you see like, okay, you got a straight line path to any of these, misconfig, administrator, whatever, right? These are all domain admin accounts here, and they're inside of the internal network. And, the more accounts that you have in the domain admins group, the more nodes you'd have up here. And in this case, all the paths are very short. Sometimes you'll have an account that like, it has access to this group, and there's an account on there that has access to this other group, and there's an account on there that has access to domain admins, and maybe that's your path there. But if you have a ton of things, you can map out a path. Like, okay, I need to take control of this box here, and then I need to get I can go to this group here. It's part of this group, and then I can pivot from there to this system and this other group, and then that one has one that's a domain admin, right? So you can really plot out how you're going to traverse the Active Directory domain. And eventually the goal, of course, is to get domain admin. So we're going to be creating more misconfigurations so we can test out some vulnerabilities. But before we do that, I will be, in the meantime, creating more users and groups and things like that. And I will be showing you how to do some recon with PowerUp and... I'm saying PowerUp. I think is it PowerUp or PowerSploit? Trying to remember. It is PowerUp. It is PowerUp. Yeah. So we're gonna be using PowerUp to do some Recon on this domain as well. So if that sounds interesting, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well, and let me know if there's any questions down in the comment section below, anything I might have missed with this stuff that you'd like me to cover. And if you're interested in getting into some technical content, I have what you need to know for OSCP. And so I'll see you guys right over there. Thanks for watching.